Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone, live today at the RV Show. It's the Utah Sports and Vacation and RV Show at Mountain America Expo Center. You can get tickets online, UtahRVShow.com, at a discounted price. Senior and military also get it on a discount. Children 12 and under are free with paid adults, so come on down today starting at noon to 10, tomorrow 11 to 9, and then Sunday 11 to 6 throughout this long weekend. All right, yesterday, Justin Zanik, Utah Jazz general manager, was on with Hans and Scotty as the Jazz enter the All-Star break. Wanted to let you hear from the Jazz GM on where he thinks the team is and what he's looking forward to in the second half of the season.
One of the best dudes on the planet and has forgotten more about basketball than you'll ever know. He is the general manager of the Utah Jazz. Justin Zanik, kind enough to hang out with us. Justin, how you doing?
Mr. Zanik.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We're doing well.
Doing great. I loved watching you on with Bowler yesterday. I was like, geez, man, Justin's handsome, well-spoken, but you couldn't keep your attention on the conversation. It was all in the basketball court.
Yeah, I had a little good luck in that segment. I think we went on like a 12-2 run or something.
Yeah,
you did.
It was a little. Sometimes I've been on there and we haven't scored for 5 minutes, so it's nice to have that once in a while.
Yeah, that happens again, and Will's going to have you sitting in on a three-man booth with you, Bowler, and Thurl. But
those guys are great.
Yeah, they do it. They do a tremendous job. There's no doubt about it. When you trade deadline's such a crazy time, and I'm always kind of curious. And I know every deal is a little bit different, but for the most part, are we in the deals that you've been a part of? Do they come to? Does it take a long time for something to come together, or sometimes is it just a matter of a quick phone call and it gets done immediately? Like, what's the process like?
So the easiest answer is yes, Scotty.
Fair enough.
I would say in general, like the bigger deals, whether it's at the deadline or in the summer, those take a while. And then, literally at this deadline, doesn't happen all the time. We're one of the more proactive organizations in terms of trying to do stuff early. So things like failed physicals or other stuff, just you're taking a big risk by waiting and waiting and waiting. Unfortunately, we're probably one of the fewer teams that actually do that. So it's truly a deadline league. But yeah, this trade deadline, actually the last deal we did, we were in the Jimmy Butler, the Miami, Golden State, Detroit, us, where we were sending PJ Tucker and getting compensation. Then literally the day of the deadline, Detroit expressed interest in Dennis Schroeder, and so we folded that and redid that deal with the same teams, but different players, and we were able to pick up another second. So that last piece got done about 45 minutes before the deadline, I think like 12:15 on a 1 o'clock Mountain deadline. And that literally came up that morning because we just had Dennis for like less than 24 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, a lot of preparation goes into it, guys. Like, the deadline you start preparing for, probably after the first 10, 15 games of the regular season, when you have a better idea of what other teams may need, what are they reaching expectations, exceeding them, not achieving them, and you're just having a series of conversations. Not that you necessarily want anything then, but you're just building information and you're sharing notes with teams on a constant basis so that when you do need something or you do see an opportunity that, one, they pick up the phone, and two, we're straight shooters and most other teams are, even if maybe some of them will hold their cards until the absolute latest that they can, which contributes to that big scramble, 2-3 days before the deadline where you start seeing deals really pop. So you just got to be prepared for everything. I thought maybe 3 months ago with the new apron rules and the luxury tax and the CBA kicking in, the full rules kicking in this year, like what kind of deals are they gonna look like? And I think what you've seen, it really hasn't impacted movement, but it's impacted the way deals are done a lot more 3-ways or 4-ways or 5-way trades. And it's either like this deadline, I would characterize it as either primary players moving places or, smaller expiring deals for assets or salary dumps. You did not see a lot of players that were, let's say, making $15 million or more that are good players but not primary players with a year left on their deal or 2 years left on the deal. Those guys just didn't move, not because of lack of interest, but a lack of mechanism. And this year, there's actually a lot of money on the books on NBA rosters. There's not a lot of cap room in 2025 this summer, a lot of cap room that teams are going to have. So that'll clear itself out, and in 2026, there'll be a ton of cap room, and we will be one of those teams. So it's just, you take every deadline different, I guess would be the long way of me saying it.
Justin, one thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit more in detail about was turning a couple of low first-round picks to potential high first-round pick. Talk specifically about those first-round pick moves that you guys manipulated and came up, what I perceive as being the winner in that move.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple things, Hans, for people to understand. One, as we're building this team, we want as many high-end swings as possible. And there also was a good partner in Phoenix they're obviously going about their building their team in a completely different way than we are. They were a team without any draft picks other than the ones that they have to keep, but they could not trade. So they had very little things to trade to improve or move around, and especially being in the second apron. And for us, we had acquired so many picks. They're high quality, but there's a big quantity of them. The quality is that they're unprotected. But the quantity of them was that we had multiple picks in 25, 27, and 29. And so we were able to structure the least favorable of our picks in 25, 27, and 29, which when you're trying to, the probabilities of those picks are probably going to be in the 20s.
Yeah.
And we swapped it for a completely unprotected pick in 31 with Phoenix. I don't know what Phoenix is going to be like in 6 years. I mean, if I did, I'd quit this job and open a casino. But the value of that pick on the market and, maybe an eventual selection, no idea. But the implied value of that pick is really, really high because it has a chance to be the number one pick in the draft. Just like our picks in 25, 27, and 29. Now, on a combination of those three teams, one of them will be. So it really worked out. We do a lot of pick valuing here with our, most teams do with our analytics group. And we felt that there was two ways of expected positive value. One, in the pick itself, and two, just with all of our picks, we like high upside, high variability. Because it gives you a chance to do it. And by then, well before then, we're also thinking about the organization 6 years from now when we're good, when we're hopefully really good, but we have these other picks that we can take from other teams to sustain it.
So I want to be careful how I ask this, because if you don't feel comfortable confirming it, then I totally understand. But Ramona Shelburne had a report that said that you guys, that the organization was unaware of the principal actors involved in the Laker trade that brought in Luka in helping facilitate that trade. Are there some times when you get a phone call from a couple teams and said, "Hey, we're working on something. Would you be willing to shift this and take on this second," and things like that, without really knowing what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's normal. That's the normal course of business. Scotty, if you're in a three-way deal where you're basically a facilitator, then especially I think it's important context for listeners and for you guys is that it also depends on your level of the team. Okay, so if we were playoff competitive this year, let's say we're sitting in the 4th, 5th, 6th seed, somewhere like that, halfway through the season, I'm darn sure going to want to know what's going on with two other teams that are in the playoffs with me.
Yeah.
As a facilitator in this deal where we're not going to make the playoffs this year, and these opportunities where we can collect assets for basically free, then I don't need to know. because in that case, there's multiple teams that would be a facilitator. So they both came to us, and I've got great relationships with both teams where we can make this work. And so it didn't really apply in this case. Same case as the Golden State and Miami deal. Yeah. Like that one actually got out so people knew, but it wasn't like I'm calling Andy Ellisberg in Miami or Mike Dunleavy in Golden State and saying, well, what are you guys doing? What are you getting? I think a lot of deals get derailed that way when people start worrying about what everybody else is getting, and all you have to focus on, all we're focused on is the Utah Jazz and doing what's best and maximizing opportunities for us.
You know, Justin, your job is so meticulous, and it's so difficult. I mean, even try to keep up on it on a surface level is really difficult. For instance, I've been watching this whole OKC pick that the Jazz have owed and top 10 protected and not conveyed through 24 and probably not conveyed through 2025. What happens if, because I think it moves to top 8 protected in 2026. What happens if it's not conveyed in 26? And how much do you guys look at that top 8 protection 2026 and having to move that to OKC? Let's say it's a 9 or 10 pick and you got to move that to OKC. How much does that sit on your minds?
It's just part of our books. You know, it was decisions that we needed to make a few years ago, and it's not holding the organization hostage at all. It is what it is. We've also made up all of those picks in so many different ways that it's just one that it will either convey or it won't convey based on, our team building isn't going to go around that pick. Our team building is going to be going around the development of our young players that we have and opportunities in the market to be able to improve and continue on this path. If it means that we keep the pick, we keep the pick. If we keep the pick, it turns into a 1 second down the road. If we convey it, then we convey it, and then the obligation's over. It's not something that, we can control anymore. We can only control what we want to do with our team and just move forward from there. So lots of our decisions, obviously you guys know our decisions here as a front office and ownership are to build a championship competitive team for a long time and try to open that window. I'd obviously love it to happen as soon as possible, but I also don't want to sacrifice some sort of a future just for, immediate gratification here. So we'll go through the rest of the season, evaluate. It's been a great season for us to see our young guys and have them, development's not linear, but seeing them take a couple steps forward. Last night was a great bounce back from, a very poor performance on Monday. But all of that in its body of work at the end of the season, and then as we prepare for this year's draft and the lottery, what opportunities come around there, and then with all our picks and flexibility and good players, there's going to be other opportunities that we will attack. That 2026 possible conveyance is a very, very small part of our planning.
So, the legendary stories of Dennis Lindsey, threatening to fire people if anybody talked about Donovan Mitchell's workout and stuff like that. I always like hearing these stories after the fact about how the Jazz may have stumbled onto somebody without a lot of other people knowing. That being said, Isaiah Collier has just been on a tremendous run. In your preseason or pre-draft workouts and conversations with him, what led you to believe that this guy could be a special player in this league, because he's just been on a tremendous run?
Well, I think you guys have heard some of this before. I mean, in some way or fashion, we've been watching Isaiah since he was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So, and all through that, he was consistently, dominated his age groups in whatever settings that he had. And at various times before he went to USC, he was either in the top 5 or the number 1 overall high school recruit. I think what you've seen in previous places with the one and done areas, as you've seen these high level basketball recruits that are good kids and good players. Obviously all of them need development, but they end up making a choice of school that may not optimize them, or just the way the season worked out. Like it's always easy to look back in hindsight, but you have some expectations of how you're going to play or how you're going to be used, and injuries happen, other stuff, and then it just doesn't work out that way. And I think some organizations can get too occupied with what's happened in the last 6 months rather than a body of work that goes back 4 or 5 years as a player has grown. So we had at least mid-round grades on Isaiah and Flip, frankly. And for those guys to be available at 29 and 32, I was just shocked because they have physical tools. With Isaiah, you can see he knows what's the best thing about Isaiah at a young age, and coach has said this, he knows what's going on in the game at basically all times. Time and score, who's hot, who's not, who needs to get the ball. He's a pass-first guy, and then obviously some development work is going to happen in this summer with his finishing at the rim and his shooting, but he has innate feel and a ready-made NBA body. He almost plays basketball like a running back or a hard-hitting safety with that body. So, and he loves the game, and sometimes it's like, just keep it simple, stupid. With the draft. Like, the guy's a highly rated recruit. He's dominant in his age group. He works really hard, and it's like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Take him.
It's funny.
If we had an earlier pick, we would have taken him earlier than that.
Love it.
It's funny that you mentioned that he plays like a safety. I actually tweeted out this morning. I retweeted some stats that somebody put together on Twitter, and I tweeted out and said, these numbers don't show his toughness, because as I've watched him, Justin, his toughness is what stands out the most to me, especially when he bounced his head off the court like a basketball. And most guys would take a month off. This guy was back out there within minutes. I'm a big fan of him. I wanted to ask you just some basic basketball fundamental question, because I went back to 2005 to track all Jazz rookies and all Jazz draft picks and where they've been on points or where they've been on assists, because I always feel like I have something comparable. So, I go back to Darren Williams, and I can go through all guys, Gordon Hayward. I went through Dante Exum, Rodney Hood, Trey Lyles, Donovan Mitchell. And right now, Isaiah Collier's blowing them all out of the water in his assist numbers. So I wanted to ask you this, Justin. Is an assist as easy to get today in the NBA as it was in whether it's Darren Williams' time or even going back further to John Stockton? Is it easier? Is it more difficult, or is it the same to get an assist in today's game?
I mean, it's an interesting question, Hans. I guess I haven't really thought about it like that. I guess my first instinct is that year by year, decade by decade, the entire skill level of the game of basketball, of the players that are playing, are just light years ahead of what was going on in the 70s and 80s. And by extension, the game is played differently. What I think you've seen is, let's just say the assists are the same difficulty level or the same frequency level. There is more long-range shooting. There is more skill. There's just more space in this game. But what I think you've seen is a shift in who gets assists, as opposed to maybe a traditional quote-unquote point guard that is the main distributor. Now you've got, about to be 4-time MVP, in my opinion, in Denver, averaging a triple-double.
Yeah.
Averaging 11 assists. Yeah. You've got, some triggermen like Trae Young in Atlanta that, is also an explosive offensive weapon and an offensive hub. You've seen that with James Harden, who literally is an offensive system to himself, was probably the best player in the NBA offensively for a good 3 or 4 years in the late teens. But what I think is more rare right now is finding, especially at a just barely 20-year-old guard, I believe being a pure point guard, whatever that means today, being able to do that at such an early age, I think it's the hardest position to learn how to play in the NBA. For him to be doing that is a special thing. Mm-hmm. And you don't see it very often. It's, you go look at previous drafts, you look at upcoming drafts of guys that would get that label. There just aren't that many of them anymore.
As an agent and as a front office guy for a long time in this league, I can't imagine there's a lot that surprises you. That you're like, well, I've seen this before. I've seen this, but come on, what we saw last week with Luka, that had to surprise you a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I said it on the broadcast last night. I mean, I'm still trying to think of the last time. I'm not sure it's ever happened in the modern era of a 25-year-old global superstar being traded from his team. I mean, I've seen free agency stuff and guys signing in other teams. I've seen, some trades that were even before my time with different rules and things like that. But yeah, I would say it sent shockwaves through the NBA. Dallas had their reasons, and Nico's a really good guy, and I think Dallas is a very good organization. They had their reasons, and obviously the Lakers received, as Rob Pelinka put it in his press conference, a gift. And that's how I feel about it too. I was like, it was a gift. So when I found out a couple hours before the deal, I was just like, wow, this was not the three-way I was expecting on this.
You got me pumped listening to you talk about Kenyon Martin's son last night on the broadcast, Justin. I was like, geez, man, KJ Martin sounds like quite the kid. And I'm kind of interested in what to expect from KJ from this point.
Yeah, I think what's impressive, this is already his fifth year in the league. He's 24. I don't want to put too many expectations on him, but I am excited to see what he's got. He's a great kid. Obviously, he's got really good genes. He adds some things that we don't have a ton of, and that's superior athleticism, an ability to guard multiple positions. He's shown some improvement offensively in his shooting. I would not say he's a knockdown shooter yet, but he's constantly working on it. I think he's got a brain and knows what's going on, especially defensively, and we'll get him completely healthy, and hopefully we'll get a few good looks at him after the All-Star break. But yeah, it's another guy that fits our timeline and adds some really good athleticism and versatility defensively to, maybe he can go with us forward. He's under contract for next year. It's non-guaranteed, so we can take a long look at him, and I'm excited for him. He's, like I said, he's a good kid, and he's grown up playing with most of our guys anyway. I still think that we might be a average in terms of age college team right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's our ninth guy that's 24 and under on our team.
Hey, I know we've kept you way too long. Just one more question before we let you go. When you've got when you've got an opportunity to draft where you guys could potentially be drafting, and I know Ryan and Ashley, they provide every resource available for you guys in your scouting efforts, but do you ramp up the scouting efforts knowing that there's probably a wider range of players that could be available to you this year as opposed to perhaps in years past?
I mean, I think I don't think we approach the draft any different way in terms of the gathering of information in specific places, just because you have to be able to be prepared for. It's a little bit like the trade deadline for different reasons. Can you trade up? Is there a guy that falls that you never thought was going to be there?
Yeah.
Much like Isaiah or Kyle Filipowski. So you have to be prepared. I would say that with whatever our draft position is, when you have that at the beginning of the pre-draft process and workouts, we're going to be able to get those types of guys in our building a lot more in that range. So that'll give us an additional layer of really getting to know them. I think the NBA does a really good job with the combine. We get access in terms of interviews and watching guys. And obviously we've been doing our work the last 2 years on this draft, whether guys in high school or in college, and going to a ton of games and watching a ton of video. But I think that's probably the main difference. It doesn't really affect now we're really, we're going to have a high pick. So now we're really going to have, we really have to focus. That focus is year round and constant.
Man, Justin, we're coming up on a year. It's we're a month and a half away from your year mark of the kidney transplant. How you been feeling, brother?
April 2nd. Great. Numbers are good. Doctors at the U are unbelievable. They're a machine. It's allowed me, especially with this season, I've traveled with the team probably 90% of the time of their road trips. I think I missed 2 or 3 games, and that's mainly for college scouting. Feel great and a lot of energy, and I'm blessed, and I get up every day feeling very, very grateful for not only my health but my family and the people I get to work with and this great community and state. It's a home for me now.
Well, I hope you know that we all feel blessed to have you around, Justin, because we're so grateful for your kindness and your insight, and you've just been so great to us over the years. So I'm so glad that you're healthy. It's great, and we're a year in. That's pretty incredible.
Well, I appreciate it. I got one last question for you guys. Hans, Are you going to be in the 3-man booth with Scotty tonight? You and Thurl?
Come on by. Let's go.
It's
you're doing radio, Scott.
I am.
Yeah, you're doing radio tonight. Yeah.
It's in the works.
Get Booner and Hands in there.
It's in the works.
Oh, man, I wouldn't get a word in otherwise, but that's all right. It'd be pure entertainment.
Is there enough shoulder room? That's what I want to know.
It's tight.
Probably not. Yeah, I'm not that big, and it was tight up there last night, too.
Hey, Justin, thanks so much. We can't thank you enough. I know it's crazy. Everybody wants a bit of your time, but thanks for carving out some time for us. It really means a lot.
Yeah, it means a lot.
My pleasure, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, that was Justin Zanik yesterday with Hans and Scotty. Really good stuff from the Utah Jazz general manager. All right, when we come back, we're going to continue to break down the latest with the sports weekend up ahead, and we're going to break down some Utah Hockey Club. Jay Stevens is going to join us. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben Anderson, no Jake Scott today. He'll be back with us coming up next week after the long weekend. Hope everyone has an enjoyable President's Day, an enjoyable Valentine's Day, and a good long weekend ahead of you. If you're looking for something to do, come on by. We are at the Utah Sportsman Vacation and RV Show. It's Utah's Outdoor Expo at Mountain America Expo Center. Runs yesterday, but today beginning at noon, tomorrow and Sunday. Noon to 10 today, 11 to 9 tomorrow, and then 11 to 6 on the final day on Sunday. Adults are $15 at the box office. Children 12 and under are free. There are senior and military discounts, but the Utah Sports and Vacation and RV Show, it's one-stop shopping experience for buyers to walk through hundreds of new 2025 Class A, B, and C motorhomes, travel trailers, toy haulers, campers, pop-up tents, my personal favorite, teardrops, trailers, fifth wheels, trucks, and more. You can shop, save, and buy at the RV Show. And there's prizes that they're giving away. There's chefs down here. There's a reptile show for the kids. There's fly tying if you're a fisherman. Of course, parking is free, so it's a really fun opportunity. All right, let's welcome in our next guest. It is Jay Stevens. It's the Hercules Hockey Insider and play-by-play brought to you by Hercules First Credit Union, growing stronger together. What's going on, Jay? It's been too long.
It has been too long. I've just been dying to talk about hockey. How are you enjoying all this?
I'm loving. I honestly have fell in love with the team. I've been to a bunch of games, got jerseys. I mean, it's really been a fun time to the point where I did something that I did not expect to be doing at this point a year ago. While I was working the Jazz game last night, I also tuned into the Four Nations, I should say, and saw a very chippy Team USA going up against Finland. I thought, there was almost a fight 1 minute into the game. I thought the USA team came out and tried to prove a point.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people thought going into this that this could just be a typical all-star break type game where guys weren't taking it serious. But, man, when you put on your country's jersey, you take it serious. And when you have the Kachucks out there, they're going to make sure that everybody on the ice knows that they're there and that they are taking it serious.
And they were dominant last night. What did they combine for? 5 points, 2 goals each, and an assist. It was pretty awesome. It's pretty cool to see. I'll tell you what, Jay, it's fun to get to know some of these other hockey players and some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, and this is a great time to do that. And, I mean, this is Olympic caliber hockey, and we talk about the NHL being the best of the best, but when it comes down to it, Olympic caliber, when you can take the best of the best out of the 31 teams in the NHL and the KHL, and you can put them, on 4 teams or 6 teams as we progress into the Olympics, And you watch these lines, like last night, Kachuk's on a line with Jack Eichel in the middle. I mean, and then you've got Sidney Crosby playing with Nathan McKinnon and, and Connor McDavid. It's if you had unlimited budget on your Xbox when you were building your team on NHL, this is how you think it'd be, and now we get to see what it looks like. And man, it's so pretty. Those no-look passes and all the stuff they're pulling off right now against, high-quality players, other top-line players, and they're just out there showing what this game really is.
It is fun to see, the difference, I guess, in the best players in the world, and I don't want to say the rest of the players in the world, but you do start to realize, the skill gap and the beauty of the game that exists out there in the Four Nations when you get all of them together on the same ice. What have you seen through the first two games? Who do you think's been the best team? I mean, the biggest win has certainly come from Team USA, but are they better than Canada?
Yeah, okay. You're going to get me in a lot of trouble with that, but yeah, I do think they are better. I think they're balanced differently. I think Canada, I mean, man, they do have the biggest names, but the U.S. is more balanced, and they're going to be more physical, and they're going to take it to those guys. And Crosby's a little bit older, and, Crosby gets the extra hit every time he's on the ice. Somebody takes an extra little shot at him or a little slash. So it's not that he's not used to it, but this is just going to be next level. Saturday is going to be the real test. We're going to see who is better and which team was built better. I still think the U.S. is missing. If you had Austin Matthews, one of the most pure goal scorers in the NHL, and we'll probably go down in the history of the NHL, an Arizona native, which is killing those people that he's, killing all the Canadians that he's an American-born and he's playing in Toronto. But if you had Austin Matthews out there with our Clayton Keller, who's one of the best passers and setup guys in the NHL, I think that would have elevated Team USA. I don't know why Keller's not on that roster, but I think that would have been – that's the dream pairing that I saw the minute I saw this was announced. I was really hoping it would be Keller setting up Matthews.
Well, it's been fun to get to know the players of the Utah Hockey Club as well, and I think Clayton Keller's a good place to start. I didn't know what to expect. You hear four-time All-Star, and you think, okay, maybe he's super flashy. He's not. He's really just super consistent and solid, and he's unselfish. You talked about his passing. I have been impressed at how often it just seems like he's making the right play. He's setting up the young guys. He doesn't seem to have an ego in it, and he seems like the type of leader that I think a young club has needed.
Yeah, 100%. And he's a kid that came into that team when they were bad, right? He gets right into the NHL, and they weren't good, and so he had to prove himself when he didn't have a real good supporting cast around him. So that built up his confidence. He reads the game better than 97% of the forwards in the NHL. I mean, he's thinking circles around everybody else on the ice. It's pretty impressive to see what he does and a vision. And then to make those passes, I mean, those are just the seams that he finds on the ice are just unbelievable. And Utah fans are lucky to see him. And then we get to see Gunther and Cooley grow, with Keller at that quarterback. We get to see these other two superstars grow. And it's going to be amazing. We're in for a fun ride.
Jay, so we've talked a lot about Keller, Sergachev, Gunther, Cooley, and we know that those guys are really going to be kind of the cornerstone of the franchise moving forward. Who are some of the other guys you've watched that you've enjoyed, maybe seeing, 50-plus games already this season that maybe you didn't get to watch as much when they were in Arizona, that have surprised you or that you've enjoyed watching this year?
Well, the biggest surprise to me is Ian Cole, and I bring him up a lot when I'm on talking about my surprises, because he came in. He was kind of, he was a free agent pickup. He was somebody that we thought we could bring in, maybe get, 10 or 15 minutes. He's a little bit older to be in the NHL, but he wasn't supposed to come in and be just this anchor of a guy that he is. And I'll tell you what, he's played every game. He's averaging just under 20 minutes a game. He's stepped in when we really needed somebody to step up. We didn't expect this of him, right? He was more of a safety valve for us, but he's just kind of become a heart and soul guy for us. And at 35 years old, to play that many minutes and just take the beating he takes, he blocks shots. He's always out there just, being our defensive core. He's been a big surprise to me. Kerfoot, I mean, I know we expected a lot from him, but he's also really surprised me with his game. He's definitely developed into a smarter player and earning his ice time. And then the one that I think everybody's seeing right now and is Josh Doan. You know, he starts the season here, he gets sent back down to maybe mature a little bit, gets pulled back up, and he's just using that big body of his to create opportunities, and he's really learning his game. I'd be surprised if, and I know he got sent down right now to get some more games during this break, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't get called back up and spend the rest of the season here, even as we get Cooley and Gunny and everybody else back. We're about to be 100%.
He's been awesome. It's been fun to see him since the call-up, and I think you're right. After the Four Nations, I expect he would come back and close the season with the team. What does having Cooley, Gunther, Doan, a lot of these young guys, what does it mean for a Tija Ginla or a Cole Beaudoin going forward about their opportunity to move up? Does it slow down their pace a little bit because the hockey club may not need them, or do you bring everybody up and just have a super young roster?
You know, it's funny because I had Bill Armstrong on my show yesterday, and that episode drops on Monday. So KSL Sports, Utah Puck Report, little plug there. I think this is exactly how they wanted it to be. This just gives Tej room to grow. He'll have to spend the rest of this year and maybe next year in juniors. He's not even playing right now. He's post-op. He just had surgery on his hips. So, and Cole Beaudoin, we saw him play in the World Juniors. He looked phenomenal. These are kids that we expect to see in 3 or 4 years. So as Doan matures and takes his time, we're going to see guys that are on the roster now age out, and the natural selection will happen. We'll get the guys in that we drafted a few years ago. That's the difference in the NHL is you draft a kid like a Ginla, and you're like, okay, we've drafted you. We'll see you in the NHL in 3 years. And anything before that is awesome, but they're going to give him time to mature, play his game. They gave him some money so that he can live the right way, train the right way. They're going to give him support. We just don't anticipate seeing him for the next couple of years, and that's okay. That's exactly how it's planned.
We saw a tweet yesterday from Cole Bagley. He was talking to Logan Cooley, and Logan just raved about being in Utah, being in Salt Lake City. He said this is the most fun he's ever had playing in hockey in the state. Is that the feeling you've gotten from everybody around the club, that this has been a success being here, moving the franchise, getting the attention, getting the support that they have?
Across the board. Every player I've talked to loves it here. It's funny how every player that I've talked to actually finds a piece of their home. Even our Finns. The Finns think Park City looks like Finland. And, our guys from Toronto thinks downtown Salt Lake is a small part of Toronto. And so every player that we've brought here feels kind of comfortable. They've found the good parts of Utah, and they really love it. They love the fan base and their ownership. I mean, we just can't say enough about Ryan and Ashley Smith and how great they've been for the state of Utah and for this team. I mean, these guys came in under bad circumstances and coming in and, it's funny because with KSL, with all of us that go out and talk to the fan or to the team and stuff, last year they had one guy from one agency that would come in and talk to them. So just KSL with the 4 of us that cover hockey for KSL, not to mention all the other channels are there. So that's just another thing. Like, nobody cared about them last year. And now everybody cares about them. They get good media coverage to the point where they're probably tired of it at this point. The fans love them. That Delta Center is intense. It's so crazy to go to a game there. You're just in it the whole time. Every piece of it is entertaining. The game is amazing. The fans are funny. Like, every time they're on the Jumbotron, something funny happens, and people are watching. People are engaged. And, yeah, they just feel welcome. They feel comfortable. They get out there, and they feel extra pressure to win because they love us as much as we love them, and they want to perform for us.
Jay Stevens, we appreciate you jumping on as always. I think you're totally right. The games have been extraordinarily enjoyable. He's the host of the Utah Puck Report podcast right here on KSL Sports. Jay, really great stuff. We appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks. Anytime. Let me know. Love to talk about hockey.
There he is, Jay Stevens, giving us a breakdown on what he's seen so far in the Four Nations and what he's seen so far from the Utah Hockey Club through their first 50-ish games of the season. We are live today at the Utah Sportsman Vacation and RV Show at Mountain America Expo Center today. through the 16th, so through Sunday. Open today, noon to 10, tomorrow 11 to 9, and then on Sunday 11 to 6. Come on down. Kids 12 and under are free. There's really events for everybody. There's different booths, different RVs, different shapes and sizes. If you have a 10-person family, if you have a 2-person family, maybe you're rolling solo, and you just want to get out and about, you want to be about that van life, they can take care of you as well. So come on down and see us. It is the Mountain America Expo Center, 9575 South and State Street. It's the Utah Sportsman Vacation and RV Show. All right, we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Former BYU coach Dave Rose. We got a little change in administration at BYU. How was it working for Tom Homo?
Tom was as good a guy to work for as you could have had because he just let you go and do your thing. There were obviously times when he'd kind of corral you and bring you back in a little bit, but he let you run your program and he was very, very supportive and the things that you needed. There were so many things that went into Tom's legacy there that didn't really have anything to do with the game itself. It just had to do with trying to get us up to speed and actually prepare the school to get into where they are now, into the Big 12.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got it made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Segment brought to you by our friends at Peach Doors and Windows. You can find them online, peachbuildingproducts.com. Had a fun time hanging out with Cindy and the crew down at Peach Doors and Windows last night. If you're looking to customize your home, you can do it at Peach. Today, we are live at the Utah Sportsman Vacation and RV Show, Utah's outdoor expo at Mountain America Expo Center. The event's for RV enthusiasts. This is your opportunity to preview and buy 2025 RVs. It's the largest selection of RVs in one place from all the top dealers in Utah. You can shop and buy from the largest selection of RV accessories. Well, the Jazz are off because it's the NBA All-Star break, and the Utah Hockey Club is off because of Four Nations, but that doesn't mean you can't still find some basketball tonight. You have the Rising Stars Challenge kicking off, and Keontae George is going to be taking part in that. Mentioned he's on one of the more dangerous teams. There are 3 Rising Stars teams that are made up exclusively of freshmen and sophomores. There's going to be a 4th team as well that is made up of G League players. Keontae George is going to be on the roster, coached by Chris Mullen, NBA Hall of Famer, with Steph Castle, Dalton Connect, Jalen Wells, Zach Edey, those last 2 from the Memphis Grizzlies, and maybe the front runners to be Rookie of the Year. Trace Jackson-Davis from the Golden State Warriors, and Ryan Dunn. So that should be a very good team. You heard Keontae George, one of our updates, talking about playing with Zach Edey. That should be fun to watch, that game coming up tonight. The other teams out there are coached by Tim Hardaway. Of course, the other Golden State Warriors legend, Tim Hardaway, representing the Warriors because the game is being played in San Francisco at Chase Center. Cason Wallace, Jaime Jaquez, Grady Dick, Anthony Black, Zachary Rizachet, Alex Sarr, and Tristan Da Silva are going to be on that roster. And then on Team Mitch Richmond, it's Amen Thompson, Asar Thompson, Bilal Coulibaly, Scoot Henderson, Tamani Kamara, Yves Misi, and Bub Carrington. Are going to be playing in that game. So that should be very cool. And these games are kind of being held across a couple of different networks. ESPN is going to carry some stuff. TNT is also going to be carrying games as well. NBA TV as well. We have a whole article up at KSLSports.com if you find out when, or you want to find out when and where to watch the games, including tonight's Rising Stars Challenge. You can right there on the front page at KSLSports.com. All right, Hans and Scotty are coming up next. Thanks to Christian back in studio for the last couple of days. And we'll be back with you coming up on Tuesday. Have a nice long weekend. Hans and Scotty, stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.